guys, so just a quick tutorial on a little cheat that you can do with my Willow bra pattern. This is the classic style. This is one of the variations available with this pattern. This is the most basic one. This is the simple sort of beginner bra pattern, I would say is probably the most simple. But I'm going to show you a way to simplify it even more, save a bit of time, and yeah, hopefully you will find this quite useful. So in the pattern instructions at the moment, and in the video, I have done a video tutorial for that. If you do want to check it out, I'll link it down below. But you kind of sew the fold over elastic on in a V here, and then you sew sort of up here and then leave a tab, and then attach your strap elastic to that, sew it under, tuck it under, sew across. But there is a way that you can just sew the fold over elastic just straight on in one long piece, and it just saves a little bit of time, and it might just be simpler, so I'm going to show you how to do that. So the reason why it kind of comes up and then you attach the strap elastic to the tab that's left here is just to keep this point where it is, and it creates it sort of more a triangle shape. So this cheat, if you like, will smooth this over, and so it will be more rounded, but it will still be obviously the same shape here. We're just going to change this little part here where we attach the strap. So I've got my bra to this point, and if you want to learn how you can get this far, I do have a tutorial. I'll link that down below. It's part one of my Willow classic style tutorial, basically just assembling all the pattern pieces. So once you've got to here, what you can then do, and now to ensure that we do the same thing to both sides, what I'm actually going to do is just fold it in half from the centre front seam, and I'm going to pin it all in place so this seam matches, and I'm just going to pin the front pattern piece, making sure everything kind of lines up absolutely perfectly. And getting that seam right. So I've pinned this all in position and it's really sitting quite nicely. So what I'm going to do is just cut this sort of corner off and just smooth it over a bit, so you can just sort of trim this off without having to think about it too much. The reason I've folded it up like this is so that whatever we do to one side, obviously it happens as well to the other. So I'm just going to take that corner off by just smoothing it round. So I've just basically smoothed that over, so now it's a really nice smooth curve over that seam. So now what we need to do is basically apply the fold over elastic in the same way, but obviously we need to do it as one long piece. I'm just going to pin the back main to its lining on both sides. It just makes it easier to apply your elastic. You can base this back pattern piece to its lining, but I'm just going to pin it. So if you are sewing this just as the classic style like this, you will need to sew your band elastic on first, so that when it's turned up like that, you can put your back closure to the back and trim this down to the right side so it will fit in your back closure. However, I am sewing this with this as a lace long line for a separate tutorial. I'll link that one down below as well. So I'm going to be using this hook and eye tape at the back, so I don't need to do that, but that is something to be aware of if you are just sewing the classic style. So, okay, let's assume that if you are doing that, you've already sewn the band on. So I do like to offer some sort of guidance on the length to cut this shorter than the fabric edge, because obviously the elastic needs to be shorter so that when you stretch it, it will sort of pull in, contour the top edge for you, and it won't gather it, but it also won't let it wobble out, and it won't lose its shape over time. So I'm going to be cutting this sort of approximately 6 centimeters shorter than the top edge. So the way that I'm working this out is literally just by laying it over like this, and then sort of folding it over there at the center front seam all the way along to this point. So that's 6 centimeters shorter. So I'm just going to cut it there. What I'm also going to do to make sure that it's sewn on evenly is just take the full length of the elastic and fold it in half. I'm going to mark the centre point with the pin. That's so that when we sew it on to the top edge of the bra that we can match this pin up with the centre front seam and we know that it's sewn on evenly. You've got half that way and half that way. So now I need to decide which side of the elastic, as if I didn't have enough trouble trying to decide what colour with all these colours in the fabric, but I'm going to go for the shiny side, I think. Why not? So now the matte side of the elastic is now the wrong side of the elastic, so I need to place that to the inside of the bra. So the raw edge of the fabric here needs to sit along that fold line in the elastic, and the way that we sew this on is basically with a 3-step zigzag stitch, and you sort of stretch the elastic to the length of the fabric while sewing along the fabric. So I've got my sewing machine set to a width of 3.5 and a length of 2.5 on a 3-step zigzag stitch. So what I'm going to do to start me off is just a couple of stitches in place without stretching anything, just to secure the end. And then I'm going to place the pin at the centre front and then sort of stretch it out while holding it in the shape around the curve. And then I'm just going to sew. So I'm taking care to keep the raw edge on the fold in the elastic and making sure that the lining is also getting caught underneath. Centre front, I'm just going to remove the pin. I'm just going to stop with the needle down at the centre front seam. I'm going to pivot the work underneath the machine foot with the foot lifted up, so I'm pointing in the right direction. Then I'm going to put the foot back down like that, and that's how I get around that tight curve at the centre front. And then I'm going to do the same again but with the other side, so end to end, and then stretch and sort of hold this sort of evenly so it's sewn around that curve nice and evenly as well, and then carry on sewing. Look like. As you can see, it's sort of contoured in, but the fabric isn't all gathered and scrunched together. So now I'm just trimming the fabric back to the zigzag stitches. This is an important step if you want fold over elastic to sit nice and flat and smooth at the top. So now that's all trimmed back neatly, I'm going to just fold the elastic down to the right side of the fabric, and then with the same 3-step zigzag stitch I'm just going to top stitch all the way along, fold over elastic. So I'm not going to stretch the fold over elastic towards me this time, I'm just going to guide it through, and then I am going to pull it through from behind. So it may look like I'm pulling on it, but actually I'm just keeping it flat and keeping this edge folded over, but I'm not putting any tension on the elastic in front of the foot. There you are. You can see how it's coming out the back. That's the top fold over elastic sewn on. So the way that you'd attach your strap elastic now, rather than attaching it to the tab and tucking it under and all that, what you can simply do now is if you turn the bra to the wrong, sort of the inside, and place the back of the elastic, or the plush side, or the side that you're not going to see on the final bra, if you place that to the inside of your bra like that, level with the bust seam at the top, and just sew a small row of zigzag stitches across here, then trim the fabric back to the zigzag stitches, and then you can turn it up like that from the row of stitches, so it look like that on the inside, so you've covered the end. And then on the right side of the bra, the outside of the bra, you can then just sew a row of zigzag stitches across here at the fold over elastic just to attach the strap like that. And it does simplify things, so I hope that was helpful for someone and that you'll find that little cheat a little bit useful. So there we are.